Let's talk about cluster deployment options.
I got this. When deploying an RKE cluster, you have a myriad of options that controls how it runs.
When creating an RKE cluster through Rancher, there's a large set of configuration options available through the UI to help set up a production-grade cluster with only a few clicks. I'll cover some of these by walking through the custom cluster screen. First, as you'd hope, you can choose the version of Kubernetes to install. RKE supports the last 3 minor versions. Next, you can choose the network provider. And if Flannel is chosen, you can enable Windows Worker support. We'll cover that in a later section though. If Canal is chosen as your network provider, you can enable project network isolation. When enabled, namespaces in different projects will not be able to access each other over the network unless explicitly allowed, allowing stricter control of access in multi-tenant situations. Continuing on, a Kubernetes cloud provider can be specified. This would allow Kubernetes to provision resources and external APIs when specific Kubernetes native resources are created. Docker Hub is the default registry used for RKE's Kubernetes component containers and workload containers. If you want to use a different registry by default, specify that in the private registry section. Many advanced options exist to fine-tune your cluster setup, including choosing if Nginx will be deployed as an ingress controller, what ports to use for node port services, and choosing if the metric server should be deployed. Enforcing pod security policies requires the deployment of additional system components. When enabled, you can choose the default policy from the global policies configured in Rancher. Kubernetes versions add and drop support for specific versions of Docker. You can enforce these requirements by choosing the Require a Supported Docker Version option. RKE can automatically take snapshots of etcd, and these options control this behavior. Backups to an object storage solution implementing the S3 API are supported as well, and access can be given with the access key and secret key, as well as specifying the endpoints needed for this API. Finally, authorized endpoints will be covered in a separate section, but in summary, if some external endpoint provides Kubernetes API access, the fully qualified domain name and certificate authority of this endpoint can be entered here to be included in Rancher's generated kube configs.